And before we get started with your questions, I want to give a brief bio of Jane. This week, we are delighted to speak with Jane Wesman. She is known as a woman of passion and influence in the arts and business world. An expert in public relations and marketing, Jane is the president of the New York-based PR agency that bears her name, Jane Wesman Public Relations, Inc. A leader in the book publishing industry, Jane earned her bachelor's degree in English literature and communications at Simmons College, graduating with the awesome class of 1969, and she looks amazing, 69. Wow. Jane herself is a book author and is frequent writer and media commentator on book publishing, branding, and career success. She is currently a board member of the Women's Media Group, a mentoring and networking organization for women in publishing, and was past president of the New York City chapter of the National Association of Women Business Owners. And among her many other nonprofit leadership positions, Jane is a past program chair of the Art Table. Jane is deeply engaged in the world of commentary arts as a collector and supporter of young artists and nonprofit institutions with her time, expertise, and grants. Among these, in her gift to Simmons University, the Ifill College, funding the new and successful Arts Management Experience Program. That's a lot, Jane. You got a lot going on. That's amazing. So Jane.
It's taken me a lifetime to do all of that. So it's a lot going on, but it's spread out over a long period of time.
I mean, it just shows what caliber of woman you are too. So Jane, we talked in our pre-show conversation that seeing Simmons today, students are well and closely guided by their advisors and have more engagement with their professors. Did observing that connection between students and professors in the arts administration degree program affect your decision to gift the Ifill College with the Arts Management Experience Fund? And then also, what was your intention with the gift? And what was your hopes for that program in the future?
Okay, well, I think that's a three-part question. So let me try to break it down. Yes, I was highly impressed with both the faculty and the administration at Simmons. Over the years, they had been contacting me, engaging me in various events in New York City. And through that, I met a professor named Heather Hole, who teaches arts administration in the Ifill College. And every other year, she would bring a group of Simmons students down to New York for 3 weeks in June to where they could learn about various careers in arts administration. And so I started by helping to provide some scholarships for the students who were coming down for 3 weeks to offset their expenses. And I would meet with the students when they came to New York. I went to some of the for example, I went with one group to the Whitney Museum one year, and I was so impressed with their meeting with an executive at the Whitney Museum and how well prepared the students were, the great questions they asked, the notes that they took, and I realized what a great job Heather was doing teaching them and preparing them for this experience. So as the years went by and I became more involved with that aspect of arts administration, I thought it would be a good idea to expand the students' experience. And in various meetings that I had with faculty and administration at Simmons, we came to realize that the students who were doing internships in the Trustman gallery, that's the art gallery at Simmons, they needed some funding to be able to do those internships. And then also students who wanted to do internships at other arts management internships outside of Simmons University, they also needed some financial support. And so that is the program that I help underwrite. It has 3 parts: the arts management a trip to New York City that takes place every other year in June, the internship in the Trustman Art Gallery, and then the internship outside of Simmons. And it's been great. And the point of it, the last part of your question, Lachey, was what do I hope the students gain from it? I hope it gives them a leg up when they graduate from college that allows them to get the jobs that they want to get. Because when they go in an interview in a competitive situation, they will be able to show all of the work that they've done and all of the knowledge that they gained at Simmons. And I think it's going to be very, very helpful for them.
And speaking of a leg up, shifting gears, doing my research with you, Jane, the most amazing thing that I enjoy about you is your mentorship and how a lot of women, especially, just women in general, like it's a competition with each other. Why don't you have that attitude? Like, where does your passion comes from nurturing other women and helping other women grow, especially in the business field? What does that drive come from? Instead of you competing, it's like, no, let me embrace you. Let me teach you. Let me mentor you.
Yeah. Well, I think culturally that's a really interesting issue that we have here, because we've got this sort of yin yang situation where women are nurturers and where we do care for other people and we do create villages and we do help each other. And then I play a lot of sports, so I play a lot of tennis. And in tennis, if you play doubles, you have to have a good teammate and you have to be able to work well with your partner. And at the same time, you need to beat your opponents. So you have to be very competitive. Yet at the same time, you need to enjoy yourself, because tennis players who don't enjoy themselves are not going to do well. And so I think that often imagining that life is a zero-sum game does not work. What works is understanding that networking and teamwork and helping other people and receiving help from other people is the way to succeed. So I think that's where the mentoring comes from.
Yeah, I remember in a pre-conversation, like you told me, you can't do this on your own. And the best of the best, I remember you mentioned Oprah has a whole team. She couldn't be Oprah without other people, so I really enjoy that. So let's dive into your book that you published in 1995. And it's actually Dive Right In, The Sharks Won't Bite. And you mentioned some information in there that applies to the industry then. Can you say that same information that you shared in your book is the same information? Can we use that same information, or has the industry, changed so much where now the information, we've evolved and it's more information and new information that we need?
Okay, so it is about 30 years ago that I started writing the book. So the book is based on three things: my own experiences as an entrepreneur building a business. So I started my company in 1980. And so by 93, 94, when I was researching the book, I had around almost 15 years experience on top of corporate experience before that. So it's my own experiences, interviewing other women who launched and ran businesses, and a lot of research. So the basic information, the basic advice that is in that book still is important today. The basic information about how to lead, how to manage people, how to build a workplace that people really like to come to, how to reward people, how to make sure that the people who work for you and with you enjoy what they're doing and are highly productive. So all of that advice is the same. And I'll just point out something. I wrote about being physically fit in the book, and taking good care of yourself physically, exercising and eating well. And I just read a new study now, that says that executives who exercise regularly lead better and make better decisions. And so I was ahead of the game 30 years ago. So the basic advice is the same, especially I think my leadership advice, and also some practical advice about what if you want to start a business. What I saw a lot of women doing, and I'm still seeing it today, Lachey, and I think a little bit with you, is you have so many ideas and you want to start so many different businesses that you don't focus on one business, and therefore you end up not doing well in any of them. So that advice, begin by focusing on one business and going full force for that business, still stands. All right. The things that have changed, obviously, is technology. So technology has changed our the way we build teams, the way we can work virtually, hybrid workplaces. Our ability, how we can sell, how we can reach people through technology is different. Now, the downside of, unfortunately, what stayed the same is are some of the personal feelings that women have and the way we've been socialized. So, for example, women's relationship to money hasn't changed much. I think women are still socialized to think that talking about money or asking for what you're worth or trying to value yourself fully, it's still, I don't want to say it's not acceptable. We're just not taught this. You know, we're taught that money is sort of a dirty word. It's not what we used to call ladylike. And so I think the insecurities that women had when they were launching their businesses in the 90s are the same insecurities that I'm seeing now. Imposter syndrome is one, thinking you don't deserve what you're getting, undervaluing yourself in terms of your services or your product, and overwork, an inability to delegate, and therefore a form of workaholism, which is really, really bad for us. And I think the final thing, which is kind of interesting, is what I call likability. This kind of way that we've been socialized to be liked. And so when we're in a negotiation, it's more important to be liked than to negotiate your value or your worth. And I think a lot of women get tripped up in the wanting to be liked and not understanding that if you're a consultant like I am, for example, that I'll be liked through my expertise and my ability to do well. And I don't have to, you know, just smile a lot. Okay.
You don't have to just smile and be quiet like they used to tell us. Just smile there and be quiet, you know? Okay, so
wait, Lachey, you're telling me that's what you were told?
Oh yeah, I've been told that now. Oh, you can just smile and be quiet.
Okay, great. So I'm right. Yeah. We still have the same problems.
Yeah. Okay, so going back to, you kind of answered the last question, pinpointing to one thing. And like you said in our pre-conversation that we had before the show, how, you know, how can you give someone like myself advice who wants to do all the things? Like, okay, I want to be the best book-selling author. I want to have this Emmy Award. I want this talk show and this and that and that and this. What can you give someone like myself who's all over the place to reel it in?
Okay. All right. Well, you're going to have to start with one thing. So if you want to build, you know, you're talking about building your television network or YouTube network, whatever the latest technology is, you really need to build your team. So, well, let's start with this. You need a plan. First thing, you need some kind of business plan, and it doesn't have to be huge, formal 50-page plan, but you need to plan out what it is that your service or company, what are you going to do? What problem are you going to solve for other people? You know, who's going to buy from you? So you need a plan that explains what your business is. Then you need to develop a team. What are you going to do? And who do you need to work with to get the rest of the work done? And I like to have an advisory team. So you would have a group of people like me who could talk with you. We can meet once a month or once every 2 months, and you could tell us what's going on, and you would have different advisors helping you. So to build your network, you need to be building a team to build your television network, but that brings us into networking. Nobody built a business or a great career on their own. Nobody. Look at the French Open of what we just saw last week. Every champion there had a whole team behind them. And even though they are out there playing singles on that tennis court, they had a team that helped them get there. So Lachey, I would advise you to think about what's the first big goal you want to reach? How are you going to reach that? And then you can build out a book from your experiences of starting your television network. If you want to be an on-air personality, how are you going to meet the people who are going to either help you be really good as an on-air person, and who's going to help you get that job? That's what you need to do.
Got it. Well, thank you so much. Before we get into all the other preliminaries and stuff and whatnot, does anyone have any questions in the chat? We have Leslie, class of 70. She has her hand up. Go ahead, Leslie. You can ask your question.
Okay. For you from your sophomore year when you lived with Valerie Lawrence on Music Hall, because I was on Music the same floor. But this is my question. What kind of jobs are the people getting in the arts administration, and how can we help them?
Okay. So you were breaking up a little bit for me. Did you ask what kind of jobs can the students in arts administration apply for now and when they graduate? Was that it?
Yes, and how can we help them?
Networking. This is networking. So the jobs in arts administration would be any kind of museum work, from curatorial to education to fundraising. So all those jobs in museums, all the jobs in art galleries, which again could be curating, administration, sales, to other arts organizations like symphonies or theater groups. So these are all the types of jobs that are arts administration jobs. And the best way that you can help Simmons students is to let Professor Heather Hole know that you can introduce students to people who might have internships or jobs for them.
Okay, we have one in the chat. It says, how and what advice do you give women who venture out to not be whatever is the typical woman's response? Let's see, into things like just smile, or when a woman exercises her authority as a boss. That's a good one.
Okay. Say that, please ask me the question again. What's the
How?
question?
Okay, how and what advice do you give women who venture out to not be whatever is the typical woman's response, such as just smile, or when being or exercising your authority as a boss?
Okay. Well, if you're a boss, what I call a leader, you've gotten there because you've already able to communicate with your team. And so I would say being able to listen to what people are telling you or asking you, and acknowledging that you hear what the other person is saying, repeating it back to them, and then answering their question or supporting them is the best way to show your leadership skills. In other words, listen to what's being said don't try to jump in there before the person speaking to you has clearly been able to express themselves. So that's one thing that I think is important. The other thing, as a leader, if you want to build a great team, is you've got to mentor your team. You've got to help them do a really good job. You've got to be supportive of them, and you've got to show them the way, and you've got to, as they say, talk the talk, walk the walk. You need to be an example to other people. Lachey, I just want to throw out one other thing, which we didn't talk about here, is that my company is, we specialize in publishing, in publicizing and marketing books. So my area of expertise is book publishing. If anybody has a question, you're writing a memoir, you have a question about book publishing, you can also throw that in the mix if we have time.
Lashane, Jane, I also see a question from Silver in the chat. She asks, do you do any individual coaching of women artists?
I'm very supportive individually of the women artists who I choose to be supportive of. There are thousands of artists out there, and in my collecting, my husband and I are art collectors. We have done everything from helping artists pay their studio rent to buying their work early when they're fresh out of art school, to buying their work when they're on the rise. I do a lot of lunches and dinners with artists. I do a lot of studio visits. There are lots and lots of artists out there, so it's not a random decision.
Got it. Do we have time for one more, Bobby? One more question?
We do. One more question.
Okay, let's see what questions we have in the chat. Does anybody want to do a live question? Anybody from the audience?
I'll do one. Since you're talking about connections, I have a friend who's been writing these stories for umpteen years for children, which are enjoyed by adults. How would I be in touch with you or have her be in touch with you about the potential of her having those published?
She's been writing books, but they haven't been.
No, they've not been books. She's been writing the series. She's got them in
Notebook pads, like pads.
Right. And I think they're phenomenal, but she hasn't gotten to the point of trying to actually get them published. And I've been pushing her toward that.
Agent.
I'm sorry, I'm not clear what it is she's writing.
There's stories about bears, and through the bears, you learn experiences of life. She's gearing them to children, but when you read them, adults get just as much as the kids get out of them. And they all have names. She's got characters, all kinds of fun things with them. And I keep telling her the time is now for something like that.
Are they illustrated?
Not yet. She's looking for an illustrator.
Okay. So I think one of the great things about technology now is that it's a lot easier to get a book published. And so I recommend that she think about if these are going to be children's books, finding a great illustrator and doing some research about what we call hybrid publishers that share the costs with you of getting your book published and share the profits. I think that would be a great way to go.
Good. We'll pass that on. Thank you.
And before we get into our announcements, I want to let you guys know that this episode was brought to you by Cirilla. We have our first sponsor. So we want to thank Sarah. I think she's on with us, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you, Sarah Delaney. She had gifted me with some wonderful teas. I did a video for her. I still have to send it to her so she can do whatever she likes with it on her social media. But thank you, Sarah, so much for sponsoring us on this episode. Jane, do you want to give the people, the listeners, where they can find you, your website, your business mail address, and things, your social media?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. You can, I've got a lot of social media. If you go to my website, wesmanpr.com. You can reach me through my website, or you can email me at jane@wesmanpr.com. Just jane@wesmanpr.com. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And you can buy my book. It's still available at Amazon. And I think it's only $1 now. So go for it.
Well, the Alumni Association Executive Board is grateful for everyone's attendance. We hope that you guys stay involved with our Alumni Association in ways that are meaningful to you. We hope to meet many of you in upcoming weekends in October. So we're going to take a little break. We're going to start back up in the fall during Simmons' schedule for the fall schedule. So we hope to see you guys then. Don't forget about your host, Lachey Hawkins, and don't forget to bring your tea to the next episode.
Can you put the tea sponsors up again so we can buy?
Yes, we can. Kat, can you do that?
Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
Jane, thank you for a wonderful talk. It was great to hear you today.
Thank you, Bobby.
And
Please,
I really appreciate your coming.
anybody who wants to send me an email and I'll do my best to be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jane. You have been.
Jay, I'm going to be your advisory board.
Okay. I
We're going
got
to
you
build
down.
a network.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Jane. Thank you, ladies, for joining us from all the classes up until now. I hope that you guys have an amazing summer, and I will see you guys in September.
And
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jane.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Kat, well done.
Thank you.
Hey, Kat, yes, before you go, yes, I would love to mention it because I don't know if anyone else is on the line, but one of my short stories was turned into a short film, and it's premiering in Philadelphia at Black Star International Film Festival, otherwise known as Black Sundance. So that's happening in August, and I was wondering if there is any way I could let folks who are alumni in Philadelphia
Yes.
about it.
I responded to your chat, and what I would like you to do is reach out to communications@simmonsalum.org, and we would love to feature you in a blog and post you on our social
Absolutely.
media and promote the film. Absolutely.